How can a 350,000 kilogram aircraft carrying 239 passengers suddenly disappear without trace? That's exactly what did happen to Malaysian Airlines MH370, an enormous Boeing 777 that disappeared en route from Beijing to Kuala Lumpur on the 8th of March 2014. The search for remains has been extensive and international in nature. For instance, Australian unmanned underwater vehicles searching for the missing airliner have completed 2/3 of the planned hunt with no signs of the jet. More hopes have been pinned on another underwater vehicle, Bluefin 21, searching the Indian Ocean's seabed for possible wreckage of the aircraft. However, so far, no debris from the plane has been found. Not surprisingly, there is growing frustration among the family members of the missing passengers as search operations drag on. This has become one of the greatest aviation mysteries of all time. So what did happen? How much do the public know about it? And have they taken any of the conspiracy theories about this remarkable disappearance seriously? These are the simple questions we sought to answer. And we began by finding out how much the public did know about the MH370 mystery. Here's what they said. Have you heard about the missing Malaysian Airlines aircraft?
Yeah, I definitely heard about it, yeah.
What did you hear about it?
Just that it just kind of got lost in around China, around that area in the sea. They found debris around in the ocean, things like that, and about the black box. But other than that, I don't really know too much about it.
I know that it's been missing for the last 3 months. What I'm surprised about, it hasn't got the technology within the plane, even if it is under the sea, 2-3 miles down the Indian Ocean, that it's not able to be tracked. Because I've always thought, like, people with modern technology, mobile phones, you could track it from all over the world. Why can't a plane be equipped with some type of technology and not just some black box? From what I've heard, can only be located if it's within a mile or 2 from it. It's like, it's ridiculous under this day and age with the technology we've got that a plane can go missing without anyone knowing where it is.
Have you heard about the missing Malaysian Airlines aircraft?
The MH370 or 370. Yeah.
Okay, so you obviously have then. What have you heard about it?
A great deal of coverage on the TV in the last couple of weeks. I've been away for the last week or so, but not a lot's happened, I think, in the last week or so about the discovering where it is, or its whereabouts, yeah?
Yes, I have.
Well, what have you heard about it?
That there was an aircraft of Malaysian Airlines which was supposed to fly to Beijing, but never landed there, and it's missing for like approximately 2 months now, and they never found it. They expect it to be in the Indian Ocean somewhere, I think.
So a very high degree of familiarity with this mysterious case. We turn to our experts for clarification on what we do know about the strange disappearance of this aircraft.
What we know about the missing plane is actually quite limited. We know it took off from Kuala Lumpur Airport, and we know that roughly under an hour later, we lost contact with the plane. It passed off from Malaysian air control and didn't reappear when it should have in Vietnamese airspace. Now, what happened to it after that was initially very unclear, although in recent months we've found more information which reveals that it turned off its planned route and was tracked by Malaysian military radar on that route. Following that, it then went out of reach of the Malaysian military radar, and after that, we believe it went south into the Indian Ocean, where unfortunately it crashed.
Malaysian Flight 370 went missing on March the 8th. There were 239 people on board, 12 of them were crew. It took off at about 20 to 1 and then apparently lost contact with air traffic control about 20 past 1. And then in between that time, they didn't report it missing until, well, about 7:30. And it was due to arrive at 6:30. So that intervening time leaves some questions.
Next, we asked the public if they find it strange that a massive Boeing 777 carrying hundreds of passengers could disappear, apparently without a trace for a long period of time, without anyone knowing what had happened to it. Here's what they said. Do you think it's strange that a massive aircraft weighing 350 tons could go missing with over 200 people on board? No one's found it. It's still a mystery where it is even located, and no one seems to know what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's certainly strange, but I'm sure I'm sure authorities in various places know more, but yeah, I don't really know. But yeah, it is certainly strange, definitely.
But why do you think authorities might know more?
Because I'd be surprised and concerned if they didn't, because there's government agencies around the world are there to know more and to protect and help people. So.
Not entirely. I think sometimes we watch so much science fiction that we actually overestimate the abilities of quite how small the world's become in terms of tracking things from satellite. You always see on TV sort of them zooming down on this one tiny person walking along a street. I think it's reminded us actually quite how large the ocean is.
Do you find it strange that a massive 777 aircraft weighing 350 tons with over 200 people on board has disappeared at least for a few months without trace, and no one seems to know what's happened to it?
Well, if you're able to turn off all the equipment that sort of traces it, except for that ping that goes out from the engines to say that they're all right or not, I suppose there is a way around it if you know what you're doing, which sounds like possibly somebody did know what they were doing and were able to divert as they went through, to turn off all the equipment so that it could get lost until it crashed.
I think it's strange that it can go missing in the first place. I think once it's missing, it's not strange that they can't find it. But I think it's surprising that there's not some way of monitoring where every aeroplane is.
How is it that in the 21st century, with all of our technology, this massive aircraft could have gone missing in such a way? Here's the view from our experts.
Actually, I don't think it's that strange that we've lost the plane and don't know what happened. We might like to think that planes are very big and are tracked by lots of very sophisticated equipment. But actually, the truth is that planes, in terms of the entire world, in terms of the ocean area in which it's gone missing, are very, very, very small. It's very difficult to find a plane like this. Back in 2009, an Air France plane went down over the Atlantic. Now, we had a much better idea then where it had been, because it was still communicating with air traffic control in a way which the Malaysian flight simply wasn't. And even then, it took 2 whole years to find the Air France black boxes.
I don't find it so strange if they don't find the fuselage, because the Indian Ocean, well, it's the 3rd largest ocean on the planet, and it's 73 million kilometres squared. So it's not so strange that you wouldn't find it if it went into the sea. But still, there's still questions.
Is it really possible that no radar system detected the final moments of this aircraft's flight? Is what the public thought. Is it really plausible that no one was able to track it on radar or indeed from space in the final moments of its flight?
Is it plausible? I guess that's what they're kind of saying at the moment, so...
What do you think?
Potentially. I would have said, prior to this incident, I would have said no, but now, I mean, if the experts are saying that, then I guess so. I would say yes.
Yeah, I doubt it very much. With modern radar, I believe they can track aircraft below, up to 1,000 feet or down to 1,000 feet. So a commercial airline flight flying at about 30,000 feet, suddenly losing altitude down to 1,000 feet, someone should pick up on it. It's going to take 30 or 40 seconds to get down to that. Yeah.
Is it really possible that there was no radar detection of the aircraft in its final moments?
It would be if all communications were disconnected. But I understand that it was possible to observe the trajectory of the aircraft, the route it took initially and then when it turned back. It's a bit of a mystery how they weren't able to triangulate its location in the final stages.
I don't think so. There must be some radar system, if it's military or civil, I don't know. But someone has to know where it is. I cannot explain how nobody can know where such a huge plane is.
Can a 350,000 kilogram aircraft really vanish off all radar in this day and age? Our experts said this.
Well, first of all, radar systems did detect the plane. The Malaysian military, in the weeks and months following the event, revealed that it had in fact tracked the plane. Now, at the time, they weren't looking for a missing plane or a rogue plane or anything like that. So it wasn't flagged up. Looking back at the data, it was in fact tracked for around 70 minutes, I believe, off its usual course. Now, because its transponder had been deactivated for unknown reasons, whether by malice or by accident, the plane was no longer actively identifying itself to ground-based radar, so it was therefore not being tracked in a way that we might expect usually happens.
I believe that the pilot, Zahari Shah, went rogue with the plane and deliberately turned the transponders off. I think he did want to lose the radar. I think he deliberately stayed over the ocean rather than over the land. But the military have said that they did detect something on radar, but that because they could tell it was a domestic flight, they didn't chase up on that.
Have you ever heard of false flag operations? We wondered if the public had, and why there's been an increase in the number of people believing that this disappearance was one of those. Here's what they said. Let's talk conspiracies. I don't know if you know about what false flag operations are.
No, I don't know.
False flags a false flag operation is one which involves an organised conspiracy, either by the state or by a sophisticated organisation. And there have been increasing speculations by certain groups who claim that this was one of those. Why do you think those kinds of allegations increase?
I suppose people, as long as they don't know where it is, people are looking for answers, and that's not a reasonable answer in my view, but it's an answer that some people may subscribe to.
Not sure how to comment on that, actually. It could be if there's some political vendetta in Malaysia and someone wanted to overthrow the government or the Prime Minister or something like that, but, you know, I haven't got enough knowledge on that to really give an informed opinion.
Do you know what a false flag operation is, and are you aware there's been a rise in people believing this disappearance is one of those?
A false flag operation?
Yeah, that's one which is actually a conspiracy of some sort, okay. And it's made to look one thing, but it's really another.
Okay, no, I haven't heard about that, but I don't think it's a conspiracy or anything like that.
I think there's two major theories of history. There's the cock-up theory of history and the conspiracy theory of history. Having watched how human beings operate, I'll probably always go for the cock-up theory of history over the conspiracy theory of history every time.
And in this case?
Sorry?
And in this case?
I suspect cock-up. If humans are possible of some elaborate conspiracy or a cocking up, then they're almost always going to be cocking up, in my opinion.
So not a lot of clarity about what a false flag operation is and whether the disappearance of MH370 was one of those. We turn to our experts to understand the answers to both of those confusions.
The reason people are starting to talk, some people are starting to talk about this as if it's a false flag operation, is really a lack of solid evidence of what's actually happened to the plane. They see the fact we have not found it, despite the fact we have good reasons to believe it has crashed, leaves gaps. Now, people like to fill these gaps with theories. Now, it's quite scary to think that perhaps we can just lose a plane like this, that a plane can just go missing and crash. We prefer to think that actually people are in control. Someone somewhere is in control. Even if that means that someone or someone is malevolent, is trying to do something bad. Now, this is why we're starting to talk about, some people are talking about this as a false flag operation.
A false flag is a covert operation designed to create an event that will then later be blamed on an enemy or third party. I think the proliferation of conspiracy theories for these kind of events, well, with the internet anyway, any time that something seems a little bit untoward now, it's being called a conspiracy and people are immediately jumping to conclusions instead of actually following facts. That's not to say there aren't plenty of conspiracies and covert operations taking place, but you need to fact check first.
Inevitably, with so little information, conspiracy theories begin to form. We wondered if the public felt the mainstream media had been too quick to dismiss those, or whether they felt that those conspiracy theories were fantasy. On the same theme, do you think the mainstream media has been right to dismiss the overwhelming majority of conspiracy theories as fantasy, or do you think they should have given them more credence?
I think they should be given. They should be considered, and weighed up against the known facts. Yeah, they should be considered. But again, I don't know all the details. But I imagine that some of them, quite a few of them, would have fallen down quite quickly. But yeah, they should definitely be considered.
I think skeptically, but with an open mind. I think you can't publicise things that are probably nonsense. But if someone can make something sound a bit more credible, then people should be open-minded about it.
The mainstream media have been quite dismissive of conspiracy theories and have pretty much written them off as fantasy. Have the media been right to do that, or should they take some of those conspiracy theories more seriously?
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I think there's a reasonable explanation for what happened, whether they found that yet or not. But I don't think, you know, the Martians took the plane or that the state intervened in that. I think that's slightly ludicrous, so no.
It's not going to turn up on the moon or Mars in your view?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think it's going to be the second series of Lost or anything.
I think there's been a lot of conspiracy theories around for a long period of time, and the media generally is very dismissive, and governments are very dismissive, and people sort of get laughed at for thinking that something shady is going on behind the scenes. But I think it's very plausible, and I think really people need to start listening. Governments generally aren't doing what they should be doing for the people. And
do you think they should be looking at conspiracy theories on this occasion?
Absolutely, yeah, very much so. Yeah, very much so.
Has the mainstream media been too quick to dismiss the various conspiracy theories which have come to light about the disappearance of this aircraft too fast? Our experts on aviation had this to say.
Actually, I think the mainstream media treats conspiracy thinking with about as much respect as it deserves. In this case, there is actually little evidence, in fact probably no evidence, that some kind of government conspiracy is involved in the Malaysian airlines going missing. If there was, journalists would be jumping all over it. I mean, you'd get to be the person who uncovers this huge conspiracy.
People who work in the mainstream media aren't really well read in covert operations or in foreign policy, so they wouldn't naturally jump to the conclusion that something was a conspiracy. They tend to rely much more on the official line, on press releases, on people with job titles, over, you know, if somebody came up with a theory, there would have to be an awful lot of circumstantial evidence for them to take any of it seriously.
Military radar shows that flight MH370 turned unexpectedly west, away from its flight plan, after its transponder, which beeps its position, had been switched off. We asked the public if they had a theory about what actually happened. So the aircraft took off, it turned west unexpectedly, the transponder was switched off, it said that contact was lost, and it deviated from its flight plan. If you had to guess, if you're willing to, what would be your speculation about what happened?
What would be my speculation about what happened? The only assumption I can arrive at is some catastrophic event, and that could be human, it could be technology. There could have been some other sort of intervention on the plane to explain it. So something of serious note has happened on that plane to basically disengage all communications with the outside world and allow it to come to its demise.
I think it was human fault. There was someone in the plane. My opinion is that there was someone in the plane who turned the tracker systems off and everything. That's my opinion. Of course, there are other opinions, but I think it was not an accident. There's something going on there, and I think someone knows. A lot of people know, but they're not telling us. That's what I think.
Goodness, it's an amateur's opinion if there ever was one.
But you got a free floor and on television.
I suppose I suppose some sort of technical malfunction, perhaps some sort of loss of pressurization or carbonized pressurization. I suppose a failed hijacking is a possibility. To us, I'm not read up enough on the facts to have a really plausible opinion on either way.
If you had to make a guess, however speculative, what would be your theory?
Well, I don't know that the transponder was switched off, but I mean, what I reckon happened, could have been a hijacking that went wrong, could have been some technical fault and a crash, I don't know, but I think there'd be a plausible explanation at the end of the day. I assume so, but I'd be proved wrong many a time before, so it could well be happen again.
Either one of the pilots had nefarious intentions and they didn't come to fruition, or else something just went wrong and there was a fire or something like that. It got out of control and unfortunately the plane crashed. I think I have no reason to think that anything more unlikely than that happened.
I think someone's stolen it. I think someone's dropped down below radar, switched everything off, flown off in another direction and taken it somewhere and done something with the people on board. I don't know why, I don't know how. It just seems fairly unlikely that you could just lose a jumbo jet.
And so we return to the question we began with. What happened to MH370? Why was the beeping transponder switched off? And why did the aircraft turn west? We gave the experts one final assessment of what they think we will discover, if we ever do, about the disappearance of this aircraft.
The truth is that while that change in course is completely mysterious, really, it will remain mysterious until we find the plane, or specifically the plane's black box. To kind of indulge in the moment in kind of idle speculation about what might have gone on, whether the plane may have been hijacked or whether the pilot may have took that course deliberately, or whether there's been some kind of malfunction, some kind of fire. You know, all these are really just filling in the gaps because we simply do not know.
The most credible story about what happened to Flight 370 is the story on the Wayne Madsen report. And that story fits all the known facts. And so therefore it's the one that I would be most inclined to go along with. And that is that Zahari Shah was a supporter of the opposition party, the People's Justice Party, that he was upset that Anwar Ibrahim had been convicted of sodomy. And then the night before, Flight 370 took off. So when he took that flight 7 hours later into the air, he actually sent back a message to the government saying that he wanted Anwar Ibrahim to be released. Otherwise, the plane, the passengers and the crew were staying with him in the air.
So far, there has been no explanation to what happened to flight MH370. The authorities search and the public wait. But it has revealed interesting insights into the public's attitude towards fact and fiction, conspiracy theories, and the media. Whether it was an accident or foul play that brought the aircraft down, we may never know. But the fact that an aircraft of this size and with so many people on board vanished without trace for so long indicates the limits of our technology and the strange ability of secrets to lie undiscovered in the deep blue sea.